Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. Coaching, I think, is a huge thing. Coaching has been really great for me in my life, making a transition and shift as a whole nother business on top of what I do. And I think you're going to be sharing some really good wealth of knowledge and information with all that you've been doing. Before we get into that, which I'm excited to dive deep to that part, as my listeners know, I always like to get a background on how did you get into what you're doing? What's your story? What got you to where you are today and doing what you do?
Such a good question. So today I've been running a life coaching business for about 7 years now, full time. I'm the founder of Thriving Coach Academy. So we help people launch their own coaching businesses. We teach them the art and the business of coaching. And to this day, I've worked with, I would say, probably hundreds of clients. I've brought my business to Canada, to China, and now back in the United States where I'm from. And I love coaching. I feel so aligned with it. I definitely wake up knowing I'm doing the work I'm born to do. But when I got started in my career path, I was very confused about really where I fit in and what kind of work I wanted to do. So growing up, I often felt like I just didn't really know if I had much of a voice. I didn't really know what value I had to contribute to the world. So I would take on a lot of careers that kind of kept me hidden and behind the scenes. So I worked in a mailroom for a period of time where I was just hiding behind mailboxes, sorting through people's mail and, distributing it. And for a period of time, I was working at an events organization where I was preparing people's beds and making sure the guest rooms were okay. So a lot of jobs that required me to have zero interaction with human beings. And on one hand, that felt very comfortable and safe. But on the other hand, I knew that there was this part of me that was yearning to share my gifts and what I had to offer more with the world and really figure out what that was. And as long as I tried to push that away and ignore that little voice, the more that it pushed back and the more that it was trying to just let me know that there's more out there, that I am born to offer more to the world. So I remember as I was bouncing around all these different jobs that just didn't fulfill me at all, I had discovered a psychology textbook that my friend was reading. And I didn't know anything about psychology at the time. So I was just browsing through and I was immediately captivated, just learning all about the human mind, human emotions, what makes people tick. And I wanted to look into careers that were in the psychology space. So I, of course, learned all about therapy, but I wasn't really drawn to pursuing a career in therapy because I didn't really want to work with people on all the mental illnesses and conditions, all the negative things that people suffered through. So I wondered if there was another area of mental and emotional health I could work in. And I discovered that there was. And there was this whole other part of psychology called positive psychology, which is all about taking people that are already successful and up to big things in their life, but maybe there's just one part of their life they're struggling in and they just want to go from good to great. So I went off to research and I found that life coaching existed. And when I discovered life coach, I had a reaction that I think most people have to that term at first, which is, what the heck is a life coach? And is that a real career? Do people actually get paid well to coach? And the more that I kept looking into it, I kept seeing these stories of people that were having very successful businesses working on their own terms. And I knew something just really lit up inside me. And I knew this is it. This is what I've been looking for all along. This is the work that I'm called to do. So I decided to put everything into life coaching. And I got lots of training, lots of mentorship. And from there, I was able to go from zero to having, it was around $300,000 in my first 2 years as a life coach. And I was blown away at that level of success. I didn't know that I was ever going to achieve that in my lifetime, really. And one of the coolest things is, as I was learning how to be a coach, I also got to experience a lot of coaching. And I got to release all those parts of me that I thought were holding me back for so long. Those little voices in my head that were saying I should just stay behind the scenes and I didn't have much to offer. So in the journey of becoming a coach, I really feel like I was able to really step into my power, own my truth, and also build an amazing business. So once my business really took off, lots of people started reaching out to me asking, how did you get into this kind of work? What is life coaching? How do you get started? So that's what led to Thriving Coach Academy. And I have spent several years just really crafting an amazing curriculum that takes people from just getting started to having a launched business within 6 months. So I'm so passionate about coaching, obviously, if you can't tell. And I just believe that it is the perfect career for anyone that wants to not just have the freedom of being your own boss, choosing how you want to live, what you want to earn, but also having an amazing impact and making a huge difference in people's lives.
Love that. So what is it that then, through what are some things that you notice, like with traits, or you may notice in others that people may be listening to this and going, wow, that sounds interesting. Sounds cool, but I don't know how that all works. What are some cues or signs that you may have seen or know through the work you're doing to know that, hey, someone is, you can do coaching. This could be a path for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the biggest myths that people have is they think, I probably should have my life together first before I become a coach. That is the biggest myth. You do not need to have your life fully together. I don't know about you, but I don't know a single person that has everything figured out in life. Okay? Because we're always learning and evolving and growing. So the first thing I say is you don't need to have your life fully together. You just need to be someone that's willing to do the work on yourself. As long as you're willing to keep doing the work on yourself, you will bring so much integrity to your coaching practice. So there's 5 signs that I think reveal that someone is a natural born life coach, because oftentimes when people hear these signs, they realize, oh my gosh, the thing that I've been wanting all along is to be a coach. All these careers I've had, the one thing that's really resonated is the parts where I get to connect with people. So the first sign is that you're passionate about making a difference in people's lives. So if you're someone that gets this natural joy from seeing people achieve their goals, achieve their dreams, if you love seeing other people win, that's a huge sign. So one of the things that we teach in the academy is we show our coaches how to make their clients' success inevitable. So they know how to break down goals with their clients. So that way they get to witness that process with their clients. They get to see them win. The second sign is if you're someone who is naturally curious about people. So I like to say that, if you're someone that loves asking questions, perhaps sometimes people say that you're being nosy at times. So in coaching, your curiosity is something people appreciate and people pay you very well for. So if you're just generally wondering how people tick, why people are the way they are, if you just approach life with this curiosity, that is a huge sign. One of the things that we teach in the academy is how to ask the best questions to your clients, because there is an art to asking empowering questions. So we teach our coaches a very advanced method for knowing what kind of questions to ask. So that way you could use your natural curiosity, but frame your questions in a way that really sparks a lot of transformation and insight. The third sign is if you are really an optimistic person overall. So you're someone that a lot of people hear that and they think of just like, seeing the life with the glass half full. But it's really more than that. It's really having this awareness where you believe in possibility, no matter the circumstance. So no matter what kind of circumstances that someone might have in their life that might not be ideal, might not be favorable, you believe that anything's possible, that change is possible. So if you look at your own life and maybe the things you've overcome, there's probably been times where you question if anything could be possible, but there was a part of you that probably said, you know what, change is possible. There is something that I could create through all of this hardship. So that's one of the reasons why coaches are so valued, because they help awaken possibility in their clients when sometimes their clients aren't sure what that possibility is. So that's the third sign. The fourth is if you are a very attentive listener. So have you ever connected with someone and you ask them how they're doing, how are you? And they say, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I love when people say that, because you know that there's more than that. They're not really fine. So if you've ever had moments like that where you're connecting with someone and you're just sensing, or your intuition is picking up on there's more that they're probably not sharing with you, that is a sign that you would be an amazing coach, because coaches are trained to know how to listen at the highest level. So that way you can understand not just what someone's saying, but also what they're not saying, and being able to reveal what could be keeping them from really going after what they want to have in their life. The next sign is that, the last sign is that you're someone who's a goal setter in your own life. So if you're someone that likes setting goals in your own life, learning new things, overcoming your own obstacles, then you would be amazing as a coach. A lot of coaches, they're people that have lots of things going on in their life. They're just up to exciting new challenges and adventures. And I like to share that if you were to imagine yourself going to the bookstore or a library, if you ever gravitate to the self-help section, I feel like whenever I go to the library, I just get sucked into that section. And I know everyone else in that section, those are my people. Those are the coaches, or those are the people that would just do so well as coaches. And I think it's because coaches just love growth. They see themselves as lifelong learners. They are looking for ways to evolve. Some people might joke and say you're a self-help junkie or judge in all these ways, but coaches realize that if there's one reason that we're all here on this planet, it's to grow. It's to really invest time and energy and resources into your growth and into your brain, which is the most valuable asset that we all have. So coaches really get this. The best coaches, they really get this, and they walk the talk when it comes to doing their own personal growth. So I would say those are the 5 signs that if someone has, it's perfect, because now they just have to learn the skills that will allow them to really use those signs to make a difference and to also do well and with their own coaching business.
I love it. Now, I love the 5 here, and I could totally resonate with them, but is there like one that's like, are they all like important in their own way? Kind of like when you look at organs of the body, every single organ is important. It's not one that's better than the other. Are those kind of the same thing, or is there one that's kind of like, because like for me, when I'm listening, you share those, I'm like, man, number 5 is my biggest one, right? That's the one I love. I got to continue to grow. I got to continue to expand. I don't stop. I look at challenges. I want to learn. When I see a roadblock, it's all right, beautiful. Let's take this. What do I got to do? What do I have to learn to grasp, take the lessons I need to grab, and then break through that so I can continue to move forward in my journey? Is one weighted more than the other, or are they all just, like I said, like the organ systems are all important in their own way?
I feel like they're all important in their own way, but that last one, the just knowing that you love personal growth, I think that one is so valuable. And like I said earlier, it's not about, some people when they think about becoming a coach, they think, oh, I should probably wait until like I'm in really great shape, or I should wait until I'm in this amazing relationship first, or that I have all this success in my own career first before who am I to really help other people, because my life is a little bit of a hot mess. And that's why I say that you're allowed to have parts of your life be a little bit of a hot mess, as long as you're willing to just do the work on those areas and like show up and continue growing. That is a sign that you bring so much integrity to this work, because when you go to work with clients, you're also going to bring that level of energy where you're going to help them do the work on themselves. So we're always going to have things in our life that we can improve upon. That's a normal human thing, but it doesn't have to be a reason why someone would just wait to be a coach. So when I got started as a coach, my whole life was a hot mess. I was in my early 20s. I didn't have life figured out nearly. I mean, I still don't. No one does, right? But what I didn't have like the credibility. A lot of people will say, well, I don't know if I'm credible enough to become a coach and have people pay me well. And I like to say that credibility is, you can have one person who could come up to you and say, oh, I've been coaching for 40 years, so you should hire me because I know what I'm doing. That's like one type of person you can hire. Or you can have someone like, I realized at the time I couldn't be that person because I just didn't have any experience when I got started. So rather than leading with credibility, I just led with curiosity. I just led with, hey, I want to understand you. I want to understand how your mind is working. I want to understand what you want out of life and what's keeping you from getting there. So I led with curiosity. And one of the things I realized is you don't need to have all this life figured out. You just need to have curiosity and the desire to help people. And like one of the ways to really accelerate your own journey towards your credibility is by getting certified. So a lot of people wonder, why would someone need a certification? Because coaching is technically an unregulated industry. Anyone could call themselves a coach. And while there's a very low barrier to entry as a coach, there's very limited access to quality training. So there's really 2 options that people have when they decide they want to pursue coaching. And there's option 1, which is the not getting trained, not getting mentorship, and just kind of hoping and praying that it works out. And then there's path 2, which is getting certified. So when I got started, when I was like in that research phase, to be honest with you, I decided to first go down the path of not getting certified. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to read some books about coaching and I'm just going to watch some YouTube videos. That should be enough. So I remember I had a woman who had called to have a session with me. And during the first few minutes of the session, I felt very confident. I knew exactly what questions I was going to ask her because I was relying on my scripts. I just had like a script of questions. And a few minutes into the session, as she shared more, I started to lose my focus, and I started to not really have the confidence I had in the beginning. And I kept fumbling, I stumbled. And then about 10 minutes into the session, she actually said, you know what? I don't think I'm getting much from this session, and I'm just going to end it right here. And she hung up. And I remember feeling so humiliated and just so embarrassed because I realized, wow, I'm walking through a forest alone right now. I don't have a roadmap. I don't know what I'm doing. So that's why I tell everyone that it's so important to get certification, because it's more than just a piece of paper, right? Getting a certification is like having someone come up to you in the forest when you're lost and you don't know where to go. And they're like, here's the map. Here's the roadmap to success. Here's how you can get to anywhere in the forest, how you could find anything you want to find. And it also is someone's framework for really knowing how to grow a successful coaching business. So they're not just trying to hope and use the hope and pray approach. I hope and pray it works out, but you really have a system that you can just follow to maximize your possibility for success. So that's one of the things I realized early on, is like leading with the curiosity, but also like getting the professional training and mentorship. So that way I could bring the highest level of professionalism to this craft.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's greatly important, and it's key because it's one of those things where you do go in blind, and it's like, wait a minute here, and then you want to have like some. It's like left brain, right brain. I talk a lot about where you got the left brain logical, you got to have this computing. There's a certain process, but then you got to have that right brain. But a lot of times we think, oh, right brain, I got this, I can do it. But then it's like that background, that left side helps give you that structure to a certain degree with it all. When it comes to, and I love when you keep bringing up, and I keep nodding my head every time you're saying that, like, no one has their life put together. Like, no, we get ideas, and I think as we get older, we start to have a little better grasp on things. But I don't think we ever fully know 100% that, oh, yeah, I got it all figured out here. I always tell people, if you ever hear someone say that, run, because no one does. When it comes to, I'm losing my train of thought on what I wanted to ask. When it comes to the coaching and the aspect, sometimes, when you look at your life, and this is life coaching we're talking about, so it's you don't have to have your life together when it comes to that, to a certain degree. Same thing, like, is that looking at, is it, how do I want to phrase this? When you were talking about that, I was thinking of like coaches in sports that weren't the greatest player when they played, but they end up being one of the greatest coaches. You feel me on that one a little bit? I want to see, like, is that also when you're saying like you don't have to have your life all together? Does that resonate, or am I missing the mark on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so the good news is that you don't need to be like in this. You don't need to have the pinnacle of success that your clients have in order to support them. You don't need to have more success than someone in order to make a difference in their life. So that's sometimes a limiting thought that some people have. Yes, of course, if you like, what I would say is that, in the example you gave, those athletes that are at their A game, right? Like, what they're doing to help the other athletes perform well is they're bringing coaching skills, right? They're not just bringing their experience, because when you say, here's my experience, here's what I did, that's great when you can have someone just say, here's my experience. But the limit is that when someone hears someone else's success, they haven't been able to connect the dots and understand how they're going to create their own success, because their brain is not really producing the thoughts that are going to help them. So one of the things that we teach in the academy is really, how do we get any result in life? This is a really important thing for everyone to understand. So how we get any result in life stems from the thoughts that we're having about ourselves, about the goal we have, about other people. Every kind of problem or challenge we have at the root is a thought problem. Okay, so I could hand someone the book and say, here's exactly what you need to do. Follow the steps. But someone could look at the book and go, but I don't get it, but I might fail. but what about this, right? So it all stems from the thoughts, because our thoughts are what generate our feelings, our emotions that we have. Every thought is going to generate emotions. Every emotion is going to generate an action. Every action we take in our life is propelled and inspired by some kind of emotion we're feeling. And then all of the results we have in our life are just a culmination of the actions that we've taken. Also, the actions we haven't taken. Okay, so inaction is a form of action, or procrastinating, or we're hemming and hawing, whatever that might be, right? So when you're the greatest coaches, whether it be in athleticism or life coaching, or even just any area of life, because life coaching, it's so broad, but one of the things we do is we help our coaches if they want to specialize as a relationship coach, as a health coach, as an executive leadership coach, whatever it might be, as a finance coach. So the best coaches, they help people understand their own thinking. It's like holding up a mirror to someone and saying, here's what thoughts you're having right now. Let's figure out which thoughts are serving you and which thoughts aren't serving you. And it's so amazing when we can have that kind of support, because we all have our blind spots, right? We don't know what we don't know. So the greatest coaches are the ones who are able to do that. And something, if you want, I could talk about is people often wonder the difference between coaching and therapy. Like, what is the true difference between like therapist coaches? If you want, I can talk a little bit more about that too, and just the way that a coach approaches a client versus a therapist.
Go for it. Yeah. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So therapy and coaching, so they're both amazing. But when I was growing up, I thought whenever you had some kind of challenge or stress in your life, that the therapist was the only professional to go to. And to this day, I've worked with many therapists, and they've been very, very helpful for me. And I remember once years ago when I was working with a therapist on some kind of relationship challenge I was having, I was able to process my feelings a lot from the session. There was a lot of processing, but I left without any kind of action plan. I left without any kind of like tangible thing I could do. So I just felt like I was kind of spinning in circles a little bit. And that's where coaching would have really come in to help. Coaching was what I was missing. And it wasn't until I discovered coaching when I realized that coaching is very much, whereas therapy is more process oriented, coaching is more results oriented. So when people come to coaching sessions and they look to hire a coach, they're looking to achieve a certain result in their life that they haven't achieved. And that's why they're seeking out support. Another big difference is the type of lifestyle you can create as a therapist versus a coach. So typically someone who becomes a therapist, they will have their own private practice. They'll work with someone on an hourly basis. So someone pays their hourly rate and they go off on their way. Therapists also are able to work with clients in the state that they're licensed in. So if you get trained and licensed in Wyoming, and someone in California needs therapy, you're not able to help them unless you get licensed in California, which is a very rare thing. It's very rare that a therapist would get licensed in various states. Coaches, there's no limitation. Okay, so you could be on a beach in Hawaii. You could be coaching someone in New York. It's amazing. It's really cool. You can coach people across different countries if you want. And most coaches work virtually. Okay, they work through Zoom, they work through phone, whatever it might be. They use the technology that we have today. And when it comes to earnings, there's no average. Sometimes people will ask me, what's the average rate of a life coach or of a relationship coach? There is no average. You get to decide what you want to charge, what you want to earn. So oftentimes when I pose this question to people, it can be a little bit scary because most of our lives, we don't really sit down and think about that question. Rather than, because what we usually think is, well, what is this career going to pay me? What is my boss going to offer me? But as a coach, you get to also be a CEO, which means you get to decide, what do I want to earn? So I love asking people that question. And usually what they'll respond with is what they've currently earned, what they've been comfortable earning. Like, oh, I would love to earn $50,000 because that's what I've earned up until this point. And then I love saying, well, what would you love to earn? Not what would you like to learn? What would you love to earn in a year if you could choose? And that's where people really get their imagination going and they start envisioning that. So let's say oftentimes a big milestone that coaches start with is the first 100K, okay? Making 100K in a year. So the amazing thing is once you declare that, now you just design a coaching business that creates that for you, that fuels that. You just find the number of clients and it's just math. So when people go, oh my gosh, $100,000, what? that's going to be like so many clients. I'm going to be hustling all the time. So that depends on how you position yourself as a coach. So you could position yourself as a cheap coach, that just sells by the hour and like $50 a session, whatever you want to do. And yes, you will need to have a lot of clients to meet the 100K mark in a year. Or you could become a premium coach. So one of the philosophies we teach our coaches in the academy is how to be a premium coach, which means a coach that has high quality clients and also gives them a high value experience that they're receiving. So you're not just finding clients for one-off coaching sessions. You are finding people and attracting people who are looking to really do a deep transformation, who are looking to invest in their own emotional and mental well-being. And premium coaches charge, oftentimes at least $5,000 per client, $5,000, $10,000 per client. So if we go back to doing the math, if you want to earn 100K per year, then that means you need 20 clients at 5K each in a year. So doable. So you don't need to have a long list of clients in order to meet a good income goal as a coach, a sustainable goal. You could also just have 10 clients at 10K a year, right? And then it's just about finding them. And that's one of the things we give our students is like templates and exactly what to say and how to organically market yourself, even if you don't have like a big following or you don't need to have Facebook ads or any kind of advertising budget, all through organic marketing, which just means telling people you're a coach, meeting them and being able to understand what they need support on, and then just making an invitation to help them. Those are really like the 3 steps of finding clients. So we give our students and coaches templates and resources so they can just know exactly what to say when they're networking and marketing.
I love that. And it's so true because like in today's era, it's so much. We live, as much as on the mindset side, I could talk about the negative side of technology and what it's doing to our lives and how it's creating this addiction type of a process in a new way. But at the same token, there's always a positive too. And it's like, look at how beautiful the times we are where we can create. And like how you said, we can do coaching on the beach, if you want. I love when I'm coaching clients in Europe and I'm just like, this is so interesting. I'm coaching with a client or in Australia and I'm like, wow, I don't even know how this, it's just fascinating how that works because I've never been to Australia. I know a little bit about Australia, but that's about it. And it's one of those things on how it can create that in so many different ways. And I love how you bring up the value too, because it's all about what is it that you want to make. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur in general, right? It's when I do my coaching and work with entrepreneurs, I'm always, when we talk about what do you want to make and all that, they're like, well, like you said, I want to do this, but where do you really want to go? Because it's really, you are not working for somebody anymore. You're working for yourself. And what I love about being an entrepreneur, which I always tell everyone they should be, is because you get to dictate how much you want to make, how much you want to make per year, how much you want to have as a raise, right? I remember years ago when I first started my business, it was one of those things where I was kind of doing the same thing where I was looking at okay, I want to be able to make an extra 20% next year. And everyone's in there like, wow, 25% growth. I'm like, no, that's net profit. I go, that's what I want to take home. I'm like, that's my extra pay grade. Everyone will be like, how are you going to, that's crazy. Maybe 3%, 5%. I'm like, no, we're going to do 25. And they're like, that's just crazy. I said, here's what we have to do. Here's the process like you did. That's why I love how you broke it down because you can. And do you when it comes to coaching, I know there's always that. I've learned the higher the price I charge, the better quality clients I get.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're the best because there are people that are really invested in doing the work. So if you're a premium coach, you attract a whole different type and caliber of clientele. Now, listen, some people will push back and say, oh, so that means I'm only going to be coaching rich people. And this is not true at all, right? Because if you're a lot of people that are drawn to coaching, they have huge hearts. They want to give back. They want to give back to some communities that maybe don't have access to the resources. But what I say to that is you can't give what you don't have. So you've got to make sure that you sustain yourself first. And one of the greatest ways to do that is to be a premium coach and to be able to work with people that are really invested. They have skin in the game, right? They have access to resources. And when you are able to sustain yourself financially, then you're able to also give back to those communities that you so want to help as well. So we always have coaches come through the academy and they are able to make their goals because they're earning a great amount. And now they're able to overflow their generosity into those underprivileged communities that they also want to make a difference in. And you said something really great too. You're like, a lot of people will say, oh, that's just crazy to make 25% more profit in a year. And that's where we've got to catch our brains, because whenever we have a vision for a new life, our brain is going to feed us this thought. That's crazy. That's not realistic. That's not reasonable. But that's just our brain trying to keep us safe, right? And just like our brain is only good at producing what it's already produced. It's good at maintaining the status quo. Part of our brain, the primitive part of our brain, is there to just keep everything the same, right? To just keep just having the same exact results, doing the same exact things, because it's just trying to keep us safe. But when we ever have a vision, that is at first going to feel unrealistic, because of course it is. You're creating a new reality for yourself. So the work that people need to do when they start having a vision is they've got to have a conversation with that part of their primitive brain that's saying it's crazy, it's unrealistic, and just saying, you know what, I got this. Of course it's crazy, because I'm creating a new reality. I'm going after my dreams. But I think when we look at that, what is really crazy and unrealistic, I think the crazy thing is just like settling, is just staying complacent. It's just like letting life slip by, knowing that you had so much more to offer. I don't know a single person, I don't know about you, Vic, but I don't know a single person that's ever regret going after their dreams. Like, oh, I probably should have just stayed in the job that I was tolerating, settled in the relationship that was just mediocre, and just continued like living a kind of just an okay or a fine life. I don't know a single person that's ever said, you know what, I wish I like didn't give myself the chance. And when people really examine, you know, the decision to become an entrepreneur, to become a coach, or even just achieve any new big result in their life, I like to have them like think about the worst case scenario, the real worst case scenario, and then think about the likelihood that that's actually going to happen on a scale of 1 to 10. It's probably really low. How true is it really that you're going to have all these terrible things happen? And then the only fair thing to do after you acknowledge, okay, that's the worst case scenario, what's the best case scenario? I think it's only fair that we allow equal airtime to the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. It's only fair to our vision when we do that. But most of the time, our brain just hyper focuses on the worst. So when you think about the best case scenario, what's the best thing that could happen if you went all in, if you pursued your dreams, if you started the business, if you became the coach, whatever it is, whatever kind of big result you want in your life, best case scenario. And then knowing who you are, right? Knowing how gifted you are, how determined you are, how capable you are, how possible is that to happen on a scale of 1 to 10? How possible is it that when you know, like when you connect to your gifts, that you could create that? And what I find when people really sit with both of those is they know it's way more possible than they thought to have all the results they want in their life. And that's the kind of thought work that everyone needs to do whenever they're trying to make that decision of whether to go for it or not. And more often than not, people realize, I've got to stop waiting for the right time. I've got to stop waiting until I feel prepared, because it's never going to happen. I've got to start before I feel ready. I found that from our most successful coaches, the ones that start before they feel ready, this idea of readiness, like when am I going to be ready? They realize readiness never happens. I just got to start before I feel ready. And they go so far. I think that's one of the keys to success, is starting before you feel ready.
And I think that was a big mistake I made early on in my career, where it was like I needed to be this level before I started doing things. And then when I started my own coaching gig, it was one of the things where I had a coach who was telling me, just do it, stop, enough, just do it, let's go. And I was like, all right, done deal. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a podcast. And then in 4 months, I'm starting coaching because I want to get this up and running, and I'm going to do that. And he was like, all right, great, let's go. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't even have things figured out, but it's all coming together, because he was the type of coach like, hey, let's just put it out there. In 4 weeks, you're going to be launching a class, or in 4 weeks, you're going to do a group coaching session. You're going to launch a webinar. We're going to do a process. And I'm like, I have no system in place. He goes, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. And after, I'm like, you know what? I got to go with this, because I'm always about like getting at least some good foundation and system in place and then go. I'm like, you know, I'm not going to do that. And then all of a sudden I just went with it, and I created as I went. I had the vision. I always had the vision of what I wanted to do. But it was just creating as I go. And all of a sudden, 6 months later, I'm going, okay, I got 2 online courses. I have a group coaching now. I have this going on. And I was like, wow. And it's actually kind of, I tweaked it a little bit. I revamped sometimes. And I was just like, but this is moving. And I'm like, this is way better to be there. So that's why I'm sharing with all the listeners this story. It's way better to just get out and do it. because you're going to learn as you go, right? We don't have all our lives figured out. I sure don't. I'm always working on myself. I still read, tons of books, and I do a lot of research and a lot of other things to continually grow, to get better at what I do. Even as a chiropractor, I've been doing it for 12 years, and I still read at least 2 to 4 hours a week of research articles on health, not just in chiropractic, but in all arenas, because I want to be better as a doctor, and I want to have better health for myself, but then also for my patients and people I work with. And so it's one of those things where we're always cultivating in that way. And I love how you brought that up and so forth. There was a question coming from there, and I lost that train of thought. I gotta love when this happens.
Well, you actually inspired something, because one of my favorite things to share is that really when we think about success and failure, and how you said that you just eventually you got to the point where you just dove in, I think that success requires support. Failure we can do alone. Right? We're really good at failing when we're doing something on our own. And sometimes we think that we need to just be this independent, individualistic trailblazer. It's sometimes ingrained in our culture that that's the path forward. But really, success requires support. I don't know a single successful person that didn't get lots of support when they were growing their vision. So one of my mentors said, if you have a big mission, it's going to require big support. So I would say for people that are on that edge, they're just ready to take the dive, rather than ask themselves, oh my gosh, am I going to, do I believe in myself? Because the answer is, of course, no. When you're getting started, you're not going to believe in yourself. And I say you're allowed to have doubts and still move forward. Doubts are just the price of admission to your dreams. It's the currency to getting whatever you want in your life. So doubts are a good thing. That means you're stretching yourself. But rather than ask yourself the question, am I going to fail? Which is not a productive question to ask. A much better question is, do I believe in my ability to get support? How can I get support? Because as long as you can say yes to that, that's giving you the wings whenever you do take the leap off the cliff, whatever it is. That's the wings you need to really soar. Okay. So I love when people have that, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. It's just, yes, of course you're going to have doubts, but a better question to ask is just, how can I get support? Where can I find the community, the mentorship, and the knowledge to thrive? It's not just about the knowledge. We could Google search anything. You've got to have the knowledge. You've got to have the mentorship, the direct connection with people that are at least a few steps ahead or chapters ahead of you. And then also be in a community with other people who share the goal, right? When you're in community, that's sometimes the thing people miss. You're able to share the ups and the downs with others and not feel alone on the journey. So it is not a requirement to grow a coaching business alone or start a business alone. It is essential that you have community and mentorship to support you.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's like the old saying goes, everyone needs a coach, right? In some way, shape, or form. You look at I always like to use athletes as an example, because a lot of people look up to athletes for the most part. And it's one of those things where every athlete that I have ever studied and researched, they had multiple coaches in multiple things. And it's one of those things where you look at someone like a Tom Brady. I mean, there is a gazillion coaches. He has a health coach. He has this coach. He has that coach to help him be at the peak of what he does. And so always recommending that and in that aspect. Awesome stuff here. I love what we're chatting about here. I want to just give listeners an opportunity. How can they follow up on what you're doing, get to know more about your coaching business and all the stuff that you're up to?
Sure. So the what we offer in the Academy, it's a 6-month certification program. It's start anytime. And what we have our coaches do is master 2 things, because one of our organization's values is keep it simple. We're not about making it complicated when it comes to coaching and also growing a business. We're all about simple. So the 2 skills that anyone needs to master is the art of coaching and the business of coaching. That's our curriculum. First, we teach our coaches how to master the art of coaching, knowing exactly what to ask their clients, how to listen at the deepest level, and how to use the exact tools to get their clients to have their breakthroughs and shifts. And then we also teach the business of coaching, which is how to find clients, what to say, and how to easily just attract clients like a magnet. So that way they're just signing up. And the way that people can learn about how to get started is by going to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com. That's where you can get access to our introductory coaching 101 training. I would also say that if your listeners want to get a little sneak peek, if they want to actually learn some coaching skills and tools they can use on themselves and clients right away, and even some business tips, then we have a VIP guest access, which is just like a little taster of the full experience. So listeners can go to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP if they want to get into our VIP access and just kind of learn the foundation of how they can get started.
Awesome. I will have that, listeners, all in the show notes for you guys to tune in and tap into. So, Frank, this was awesome. I appreciate your wealth of knowledge and sharing what you did and all that you're doing. I think it's great, and I think the listeners definitely got something out of it. So, appreciate you and appreciate all the work you're doing, brother.
Thanks, Vic. Thanks for having me.